The Dhamma talk I'm going to speak about today is it's nothing new, but it's a perspective that I think would be very helpful for you. The world we live in is a wonky place. It's there's fake news, there's alternate facts, there's liars. Social media is geared to keep you buying things. So if you do little basic things like trying to make a phone call on your cell phone, up pops something that you got to get. And this, the purpose of the social media, as beautiful as it can be, in this case, this is the beauty of social media. We're able to connect across the world. There are many nefarious and unfortunate things about social media that affect us badly and challenge our practice and challenge ourselves to be in the moment, awake, clear, having right views and right actions. There's the powers that run the social media want to keep us on our devices as long as they can, because then they can sell you stuff. They don't. What keeps research indicate, they have behavioral psychologists working. What they do is research indicates that happy, harmonious discussions don't keep people on the line very long. What keeps people coming back and sitting in front of their devices in general, maybe none of you do this. If that's right, that's fine. Is conflict, divisiveness, sides fighting each other. And a good example of that, and this is a no-win situation, people who are crusading for the Palestinians and people who are crusading for the Israelis. You can't win in that one. Neither group is clean in that. So if you support the Palestinian, if you happen to speak to that, you'll be called a racist by the Israelis. If you support the Israelis, you're going to be a cruel-hearted anti-Palestinian. And this makes the mind crazy. It can make the mind crazy. So what I'd like to do now is talk about ways that the Buddha provided us to navigate the samsaric thing that is now in the form of social media. So when you plug into your phone or your laptop and you want to send an email, you'll get pop-ups and things coming up and people wanting you to buy stuff. And of course, you have to spend money to have a phone now almost. And you can spend lots of money buying cell phones, which will give you pretty pictures and all sorts of stuff you need. But it's basically a phone. Now, so when you try to make a phone call, boom, someone's trying to sell you another phone. So anyway, this barrage of information can really cause one to become sort of semi-crazy. It's crazy making out there. And, what I wanted to do now was to speak about ways that the precepts can help guide us until we understand the second principle I'll talk about, which is karma, vipaka, cause and effect. So how do we find truth and a noble understanding? How do we find that if it's blurred by our daily interaction with the internet? Well, there's something to be important for you to understand. We have the 5 precepts, and all of you are probably familiar with cause and effect, karma, vipaka. Karma is the cause of something, and vipaka is the result. So cause and effect has to be understood and can be understood. Well, we can help you through this utilizing the precepts. The precepts, and we'll just deal with the 5 precepts, are a guide to help you understand until you get the viscerally or in your gut, the understanding of cause and effect. Cause and effect is very simple. One action causes a result. If you want this result, do this action. If this action is going to cause harm, don't do it. If this action is going to cause positive benefit, do it. So coming to a Dhamma talk, that's a pretty good choice, isn't it? It probably has good results for you. It'll bring you to at least you get to hang out with some other like-minded people from around the world. That's not too bad. That's a nice effect. There might be some chance to practice, and there will be, and that's not too bad either. So the choice of coming here today has positive effects for you. And as a result of this talk, it may spur you on to become awakened, enlightened. It'll certainly reinforce that trip along the way, I hope. That's what I hope I can do for you. So you have to be careful as to how to choose the actions. If you chose, so let's take a look at the precepts one at a time here. The first one, Panadipadavaramani Sikapadam Samadhyami. That is a suggestion by the Buddha to follow. I take the precept to refrain from killing all living things. In other words, I take the precept to act for the welfare of all beings. Now that concept is interesting, because if you have a reputation of being kind to all beings, respecting all beings, you're putting yourself in you're going to attract people that are similar thought patterns, and you're going to yourself be a gentle being, and you'll tend to live in a community of gentle, thoughtful, respectful beings. So the key to the precepts are, when you make a choice, a right view, for example, a right action, such as coming to a Dhamma talk, it has a result which will be beneficial to you, but it'll tend to predispose you to repeat this. Okay, so a positive action will cause you to repeat, will tend to predispose you to repeat that positive action. Similarly, if you harm other beings, you can develop quite a predisposition to continue to do that. If you're a bully, if you hurt people, this is a little gross, but serial killers that have been interviewed by people say eventually they really enjoy killing. Imagine having one of your major sources of enjoyment in killing human beings. Ugh, makes me sick thinking about it. But they became predisposed by the action of killing that they seem to enjoy, to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Now that's a really extreme example. There's no serial killers in front of us now, I know, but that's an example that would be interesting. Adina dana varamani sikapadam samadhyami. I take the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given. Now, this is a very interesting part of this precept. As a monk, I couldn't take anything unless it was offered. So that's why you would always, I would receive food, I would receive clothing, I'd have to receive it, having been offered it. The thing that you Where adinadana comes in for us in daily life is you don't take anything unless it's offered. That's just do that. Just make that a precept. You don't steal anything unless someone gives you something. You don't do it. Now, what that does is that causes the effect of that is you're trusted by people. They know you're not going to do anything to harm them or to take away their possessions. You're not going to cheat them. So if your way of being follows that second precept, you have a very good chance of being admired by people. That's one of the effects of the positive side of being known as someone who follows these precepts. And you don't have to boast about it, just your actions will speak louder than words. If you're generous and you take care of people and you don't respect, and you respect them and refrain from respect their property and respect what's happening, you'll be seen by the community as a very trustworthy person. And that's one of the contexts. That's one of the benefits of following the precepts. So we're following the precepts so that until you understand the cause and effect that following these precepts have, the gut feel of what the right choice is for the right action and for the right result, precepts will guide you. They provide guidance to you. So the third one, and this is an interesting one, this is the sexual misconduct one. Kamesu michachara varamani sikhapadam samadhiyami. I take the precept to abstain from sexual misconduct. And I will respect my own and others' sexuality. Now, this is a big one because sexual energy in humans is a very powerful force. It can be perverted. It can be used as a drug. It can be used as a way of harming others. Essentially, when the Buddha spoke of avoiding sexual misconduct, he was talking about avoiding sexual acts that were harassing, aggressive, rape, for example, adulterous, or people were forced into it. So if there's sexual activity that involves those habits, it's not good. Not good at all. Sexual misconduct, the way you avoid it, consensual sexual activity by consenting adults doesn't have any real serious karmic consequences. So as long as the sexual intimacy is consensual, according to Buddha's teaching, won't harm you so much. Sexual energy is powerful anyway. That's enough that. Let's look at what happens if you have an adulterous affair. Okay, so what typically draws people into these affairs is they're unhappy with where they are now, or there's a bit of a thrill in having an extramarital affair. Okay, what does that do? Well, let's take a look at it. The one who's being cheated on knows something's not right. So if someone's having an affair, their partner in their guts know that that's it's not working. And the person who's straying from the marriage or straying from the relationship is lying, has to lie, can't tell everybody what they're doing. So the one that speaks of gets involved, initiates the affair. They lie, and of course, when they're lying to their spouse who knows something's not right, it's crazy making. The spouse will be asked to believe me, your lying lover, your lying husband, your lying wife. And don't listen to that perfect intuition you have. Also, whoever's having an affair, it's not something you put on your resume. Having an affair won't look good on your CV so it's not something that you will brag about, as thrilling as it may seem. The person who is the third party in this suffers this problem. They're secretly hoping that the person the married person they're having an affair with, leaves that person, divorces them, and comes to be with them. And that's not a good way to start a relationship. You cheated on your husband, and you're coming to me now, and are you going to cheat on me? There's always doubt. So that is not a good reputation to have, and it causes a lot of suffering, if you get involved in sexual misconduct. So just follow the Buddha's teaching. Consensual sex is acceptable, and that guidance will keep you away from the suffering that can cause if you get involved in an extramarital affair. I've had clients that have been cheated on and are cheating, and it's a psychological mess to deal with. So again, just take the Buddha's advice. The fourth precept, Musawada Swaramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami, I take the precept to abstain from false and harmful speech. In other words, I'll be honest, quiet, and truthful. This is one precept the Buddha said was perhaps the most important. Buddha said, anyone who is lost has the bad habit of being a liar, there's no telling the damage they can do. The harm they cause is unlimited. So if you're known as a liar in your community, you tend not to tell the truth. You're shunned. No one wants to talk to you. They don't trust you. You have no trust. And the lying is just once you tell a lie and you get away with it, you're predisposing yourself to continue to lie. If you're a truth teller, when you tell the truth, you're predisposing yourself to tell the truth. So that's where cause and effect kind of works in there. If you do something that is wholesome, you're predisposing yourself to continue to be wholesome. And if you do something that's unwholesome, you may be training yourself actually to become someone who performs unwholesome acts, wrong actions. So this particular precept is very important. When you look around the world, you only need to see what lying can do. We have a fellow over here in North America called Donald Trump, who is one of the best liars we've ever had south of the border. This guy lies like crazy. He's reputed to have told thousands of lies in his every time he opens his mouth, he's lying. The joke is, how do you know Donald Trump's lying? His mouth is moving. And that's it. So you can see the damage a person like that can do. And perhaps you have local politicians, local leaders who may themselves be liars as well. And you can see the trouble they get into. It's so simple. Just tell the truth. And there's another part of the Musawada issue. It's idle chatter. Okay. Gossiping. Ooh. When you gossip about somebody, when you are a gossip, generally the gossips want to just get accepted. They don't feel they're worthy, so they start to talk about other people. And they're temporarily liked because it's a bit alluring. What's the gossip going to say about this person, that person? But if you are a gossip and you leave the room, do you think they're talking about you? They might be. So, wrong speech, gossiping, not healthy, not a way to get respect. Gossips sometimes and they're listened to, but they're never respected. So just don't gossip. Don't spread nefarious rumors about people. The last one, the Sura Maraya Machaparmadatana Varamani Sikabadam Samadhyami. I take the precept to abstain from alcohol and drugs which may cloud the mind. I will keep my mind pure and alert. That's an important thing to do. There's a very interesting situation here. This particular precept was spoken about by the Buddha as a result of a particular monk that he had following him. This particular monk was a master of samatha practice, and he had huge powers that he could do, but he liked to drink as well. So one night he got so drunk that he passed out in front of the monastery that he cohabited with the Buddha. Buddha was returning from giving Dhamma talks and noticed this monk and instructed his following to bring the monk into the monastery. And this particular monk was so drunk, he looked at the Buddha, and then he just passed out with his feet, the soles of his feet, pointing at the Buddha. Because you know how you insult somebody in the Buddhist tradition is to put your feet up. That's rude. Equivalent in my culture to spitting on somebody. So he said, behold this monk. In the day he does battle with the demons of the world. But in his drunken state, he is one who disrespects the Tathagata. No more drinking. So that was the end of that. That became a precept that you weren't allowed to do. So it brings us to the question of what is too much alcohol and drugs to cloud the mind. In Western societies, it's very common for people once a month maybe to have some wine at a dinner table. And I would suggest that abstinence is the best idea if you can handle it. The key to understanding about whether you get in trouble with the fifth precept is when you drink, how cloudy is your mind? Because that's the real issue here. If drinking clouds the mind, if anything you do clouds the mind, it'll make you susceptible to breaking the precepts. So are you losing control of your mind if you have one glass of wine? Probably to some extent, yes. Is it enough to cause you to break the precept and do unstupid things? Maybe. So that one, I suggest the safest way is to not drink or do drugs. The paradox is, in North America, they're doing experiments with various drugs, psilocybin, mushrooms, LSD, etc. And they're finding that there's very powerful therapeutic benefits to doing these drugs. Now, the drugs are not being taken for just a joyride. They're actually being taken under the guidance of trained doctors. And they're finding them to be very therapeutically helpful. So it's how the drugs are used that I think you have to apply your wisdom to. So that there we are with 5 precepts. Now, if you take an 8 precept life, you'll just not eat a meal after noon, and you'll watch the gaudiness of your dress, and you'll sleep in comfortable but not luxurious beds. So each of the 5 precepts, we've looked at the meaning of the precepts, how to apply it in your daily life. So I'll give you an example of stealing. Supposing you've got a business, and maybe you're a mechanic, or you provide a service for people. If you cheat them, if you overcharge your clients, your people, you're stealing from. Now, the problem when you overcharge your clients, if you're a mechanic, for example, people will stop coming to you. On the other hand, if you're very honest and you're known to be given honest value for the money they're paying, you can have a very prosperous life. And in the Buddhist cosmology, it's not a problem to be rich. So if you do something that is beneficial and honest and you become, financially comfortable, that's not a problem. So if you're a truth teller, people respect you. If you're an honest person, you don't take what's not offered to you. In other words, you charge a fair bonus, a fair wage, a fair amount for the work you do. Good. You know how you'll be well taken care of by your customers. If you work for somebody and you're an employee, if you don't do a full day's work, you're stealing from your employer. And if the employer underpays you, he's stealing from you as an employee. So just be careful of this. Apply this wisely. The thing about cause and effect, I just want to reiterate this. Every action has a reaction. Every action has a result. Humans get in trouble when they think that they can do something that has a negative result and get away with it. So when I was just starting out meditating, I had a teacher who was German, and she called everyone darling. And she was a good teacher. She was a good beginning teacher for me. And someone asked her one night, what is karma? Like, what is it? And she looked at the person. She says, karma means you don't get away with nothing, darling. So karma means, you have to understand this, every action you have has an effect. And where do you get the wisdom to understand what is a wholesome action and an unwholesome action? Well, that is the practice we're about to do in a few minutes. Vipassana will help you develop mindfulness and focus so that you can see very clearly. If I do this action is going to happen. Do I want that reaction? Do I want that result? Yes, it's benefits others, it benefits you, it's a good thing to do, then do the action, and the effect will follow naturally. The thing about understanding cause and effect, every action you choose will have an effect, and the effect may reinforce you continuing to do that action. So a guy like Mr. Trump has told so many lies that he doesn't know when he's lying and when he's not. And he's surrounded himself with a group of people that they just don't say anything to him. So he's being reinforced every time he tells a lie to keep lying, because he hasn't had to bear any consequences. You don't get away with nothing, darling. Whatever you do, there's going to be a consequence. And one of the most difficult things that humans do is they try to ignore the consequence of impermanence. We live and we die. Nothing is permanent. Much of the suffering that we get stuck in, that we find ourselves up to our waist in, is when we try to make permanent things out of impermanent things. So we try to make and believe that which is impermanent is everywhere. So we don't accept the effect of impermanence. So things are impermanence arises, and we think we can. Impermanence arises. Things are not permanent. So you have, as you go through life, you try to cling to things that you think you can make impermanent. And you'll be disappointed. And that's where the suffering comes from. Humans try to make the impermanent things seem permanent. And that's not going to lead you very wisely down the path. So you have these goals, and once your practice gets deep enough, you will tend to need less rules. If everyone understood cause and effect perfectly, there'd be no need for commandments or laws or precepts, because you'd understand very clearly that that I am going to have consequences for everything I do. So once you understand in your gut, that every action has a reaction, and you get very skilled at determining what actions are going to lead to right livelihood or right action, right result, then the precepts they're not necessary. But that, in the meantime, to guide you, follow the precepts, because then you're going to be in a position of not creating suffering. You're going to reduce the suffering that you'll suffer by trying to weasel your way out of a bad or a false action, a wrong livelihood, wrong action, unwholesome result. If you know this action is harmful, avoid it. And that's where the precepts will come in, and they'll guide you. Just tell the truth. Don't take what's not offered. Respect other people's sexuality. Be honest. Don't gossip. Just be quiet, honest, and careful with your speech, understanding that speech is very important. And keep your mind clear, focused. Don't let it Don't cloud your mind with unnecessary drugs and things like that.